Hey, good afternoon. So, if you're like me and you find this new format where we don't actually physically meet people slightly strange, well, you're not alone. So, I'm Dave Barnett from Forcepoint. You have probably had your virtual lunch by now, or you've had lots of conversations with all the Bytes team and the other vendors as well. And I hope that feel nice and refreshed and ready for some sassiness. And if you can't make it sassy, make it real sassy. So, if I could ask you to do one thing after this, if you have the opportunity, is go and visit our stand because there's loads of giveaways. There's a virtual business card drop so that you can win, I think, Garmin stuff and load of good stuff. So, as with all events, we have prize draws. So go and see our stand. Anyway, so hi, I'm Dave Barnett. I'm from Forcepoint. I run our edge protection business, and we've had an ongoing discussion. I mean, Bytes is a massive partner of ours and has been for a long time. But we have had an ongoing discussion with Bytes and Bytes' customers around next generation type stuff. And SASE and associated technologies that around architecture are very much in the category of next generation. Because what they do is they enable you to do stuff better with less technology. They massively simplify stuff. So what I want to try and do today is discuss what SASE is, how it relates to the modern world, and how can you be successful with Bytes and Forcepoint. How can you manage that transition? Because we seem to be in a bit of a transition right now, don't we? I mean, instead of offices, we have homes. Instead of laptops and stuff and desktops, we have mobile phones. And instead of being told what to do all the time, we often have to find the best way ourselves. And quite often that includes breaking the rules, which from a user's point of view gets stuff done. You know, hey son, how do I transfer a large file because my company hasn't given me the opportunity to do so? An email is, email caps out at 10 meg. Oh, just use WhatsApp. Just use WeTransfer or use WhatsApp or something, right? So people are trying to make do in a very difficult time at the moment. And that's accelerating digital transformation because companies are catching up very quickly. So we did ask, look, what is SASE is a good question, right? SASE is the convergence of multiple security technologies and networking technologies, and they're delivered as a service. So instead of having to install a firewall or install web security or install an SD-WAN system, it's all just there, right? But with that comes the convenience, and the convenience is I just want to get rid of these VPNs, right? I am tired of having to put passwords in and all the VPNs type stuff that we have to do. So zero trust is very much part of the SASE architecture. So SASE covers the convergence of security, and zero trust is focused on the user experience and securing that user experience. So making sure that the user is accessing cloud applications or on-premise applications by clicking on a link, right? Instead of having to create application access right into networks. The challenge at the moment is SASE itself was invented round about a year ago by Gartner. So it's still quite new in the market. And as I say, it's not a single technology, it's a new way of thinking. The challenge that we've got, of course, is understanding it. Yeah, because most people don't really. Most people they kind of hearing about it and they're on the journey. And this is a poll that we asked through a Bytes event that we ran very recently. Where are you on your SASE journey? And I think we probably asked slightly the wrong question, because a lot of people are on a SASE journey, which they don't know about it. They've deployed cloud web security, or they're using data protection in a cloud environment already. But most people that responded to this really didn't know what SASE was. And so it's going to be really useful to help define what SASE is, but more so how it could help you, how it could be important to you. So we only need to understand why SASE and zero trust are important. Well, first of all, people are all working from home now, or if they're not working from home, they're working in the office in a controlled environment. But the thing is that they need the applications that are accessing to work really quickly. And quite often, and increasingly so, those those applications are in the cloud. They're outside of our network. So they're in somebody else's data center, right? But it's not in our office, and we're not in our office. So we need to have ways of connecting to those applications in a way that enhances the productivity of the users themselves. Secondly, we all need to save money, right? What we don't need is increased complexity and cost that goes with that. So reduction of hardware is a great one. Why on earth would you want to push your traffic through a hardware box if everyone's working from home? Yeah. Or, why on earth would you need to go and buy something else to screw something in when it could be delivered via a cloud service just as well? We all need to reduce risk, right? It's a hostile environment out there, right? Especially as we're starting to put more data in the cloud. There was an old saying once, right? Why do you rob banks? They asked the bank robber. Well, the answer was because that's where the money is. Why do you rob cloud applications? You ask the data thief. Well, that's where the data is. But we also need to start looking not only where the data is and how we can secure the data, but how people interact with it. So having an automatic, continuous, adaptive model of risk that just works, right? So knowing that Dave is okay now, but Dave tomorrow might have his credentials stolen, or Dave tomorrow might decide to leave and decide to take some data with him, or Dave tomorrow might have been paid by somebody to steal data. But that risk of people needs to be continuous, automated, and it needs to be accurate. And then finally, we need to, where compliance, especially things like GDPR, we just need to be able to have a single view of compliance across the board so that when something goes wrong, we can fix it. So all of these business drivers are all about enabling you to do business more effectively, more efficiently, and safer. Now, there are two main challenges, right, when you want to access resources, right? So number one is people need data and they need more of it, and it needs to be everywhere. Stuff on premise, in the cloud, they need to get access to websites for information as well. But you can't assume that people are behind the protective boundary of a business anymore. People need to get access where they are. It needs to work now. Absolutely, more than anything else, needs to be about what you do, not where you are. And the two major challenges to this are people want to steal your data. People want to disrupt your business. Or maybe one of the threats is that people just make mistakes. People do sometimes lose devices. They sometimes use the same username and password. And, sometimes people do allow people to log onto their systems that shouldn't do. People make mistakes, right? If I'm allowed to access the internet via the device that's provided by the company, oh dear, I didn't know I was not supposed to email those files to home so I can work from them on my iPad over the weekend. That kind of discussion happens all the time. Now, I live very close to this beautiful World Heritage Site. They have amazing people in there that have got it's priceless to us in the UK, right? But they are valued at over £5 billion. Pounds, the crown jewels, right? And for a long time they've kept them safe, and they will keep them safe forever because they are amazing people. But that security model where you put the crown jewels right in the middle of the security environment, and you have guys called Bob and Fred and Jane with axes and 30 years of loyal service to the military, it doesn't work when people are outside of those walls. And it just doesn't work when, that what is valuable to you happens to be amorphous and it's everywhere. So how can you have a new model? Because the old way of doing security is, let's secure the gateway. Let's put some hardware in the way of people's traffic so that we can intercept their traffic and we can do stuff. Well, that's not good for performance, and it's certainly not good for security. It is good if you happen to have the crown jewels in the middle of a World Heritage Site like the Tower of London, because they're really good at protecting it. So this old model of security, right? Let's just abstract that out, right? Where people and branch offices and headquarters offices, they had to push the traffic through the headquarter device, the regional data centers, etc., so that you could get access to the internet, right? But in the last 10 years, as we know, with Office 365, Salesforce, IBM, Slack, etc., applications are moving more to the cloud, and where apps and data these days are born is in the cloud. So this model of pushing more people and more traffic through a pinch point just so you can secure them, it just slows traffic down, right? It's expensive. It doesn't scale. I mean, all know that if you have a VPN right now that your people need to access, when COVID hit, you had more people outside, so you had to buy more VPNs. Not a good thing, right? So people just go directly. Inevitably, people will just get stuff done and they'll break the rules. I don't want to break the rules. If you give me the tools to do my job, I won't break the rules, right? I'm not a bad person, but if I need to get stuff done, then, you know, it's a tough decision to make, right? And I'm a security guy. What about the people that don't care about security? They just need to get their job done. You know some of those, right? It's complicated. It's slow, it's siloed, and it's expensive. Sorry about the dollar signs. But there is a better way, right? So the people and the branch offices and all around the world that are currently connecting via VPN to the data center, and that data center is then allowing traffic to go to the internet and to the cloud applications. How about, you know, where it's needed, we can still keep all that stuff in place, but we don't need to push the traffic through it, right? We could use zero trust network access to give people VPN-less access to applications, wherever they might be, right? We could use firewall as a service to allow that location, that remote shop or branch office, to have directly route traffic to the internet and have a consistent level of protection against intrusions and et cetera, and supports SD-WAN initiatives where those still exist, where you're not going, you know, directly to the internet and ignoring SD-WAN, but, you know, layering over security over SD-WAN. So that's the connectivity side, right? The next one is the security. What about data? What about human behavior in applications? What about threats? What about downloads? What about sandboxing? All that sort of stuff, right? Why have it on premise? It's nuts. Why not have it in a global cloud environment with 160 points of presence, very well paired with all AWS and Azure and Google, etc., and Office 365? Why not have that as a single global cloud that's always on with consistency? How cool would that be, right? It's fast. We will take care of the performance, right? It's simpler. You have a policy framework that applies to everybody, right? You can have data where it's on premise. You can have data where it's in the cloud. You just have one definition of it and one way of handling it. It's uniform. It's cost effective. It's easy to understand the cost of it because you pay on a subscription basis. You don't have to buy extra stuff. So what SASE does is it replaces lots of stuff with the cloud, right? So a secure access service edge provides you a service around web security, around the security of data within cloud applications that you define, and cloud applications that your users, it can help you to crowdsource digital transformation. If your users find that they're using Slack and Slack works really well, or Zoom and Zoom works really well, and they start to use it more and more, but it's not a sanctioned application, it's really simple for Forcepoint and Bytes to be able to secure that using a SASE environment. It's very, very complicated and expensive to do that using on-premise equipment, and it damages the user experience. We can help people use more cloud. That's basically the bottom line. It allows a consistent view of threats and manages people depending on identity. But we can also look at their behavior as well. So when they start to behave in a way that's higher risk, we can do stuff with that in terms of allowing them access or not allowing them access. And the zero trust element to this, the private access, which allows zero trust and firewall as a service, enables the user to be able to replace those VPN experience. And it allows you to not have to open up your entire network to somebody just because you want to give them access to SAP. Allows you to give them access to that asset that's important to them at the time they need it, with respect to the data that they're accessing. So zero trust, right? Let's just talk about it very quickly. It has been around for a long, long time. You just didn't know it, right? The Jericho Forum in 2003, when they came up with the deperimeterization idea, with when Forrester talked about zero trust, it has been around for a long time as well. Right. So what we normally do is we give people access to things to get their jobs done. Right. If the application server they need to get access to sits on a LAN On premise, we give them access to their LAN, right? And they use their credentials to get access to that, that application. We segregate LANs to control access for sure, but we give access to people for everything that they need to, but we often give them too much access. And that access is given in a way that impedes on their user experience, right? We're just used to security stuff working, right? Yeah, you don't expect to have to enter a PIN number into a token and enter that token into a VPN and then wait for the right VPN to work, and oh dear, it's starting to go slowly. That's not good. What Zero Trust does, so to fill this out, what Zero Trust does is it gives you access to exactly what you need based upon who you are, your risk profile, as opposed to just giving everybody access to everything, and the data that you're accessing. And that is continuously monitored, and you can revoke access to that application when needed. So it's giving access on premise, and it's also giving access to stuff in the cloud as well. So you know who is accessing resources, and you're being able to better manage the life cycle of that data. It's a really cool model. The user does not have to enter a VPN to get access to SAP on premise anymore. They just get access to it. So Forcepoint have the first platform for human-centric SASE. We call it CSG, Cloud Security Gateway. Now, SASE is not one single product. It's a way of doing things. It's a way of doing networking and network security. There's no one vendor in the market that has a complete SASE stack that supports all of the components. We're building it, but we don't have that right now, and nobody else has it. But I would say our Cloud Security Gateway, which gives you a global web security network of 160 points of presence around the world. It gives you which is a secure web gateway, right? So controlling uploads and downloads and controlling access to cloud applications, to web applications if they wish. No pornography, no high threat websites you're going to, but it also controls the data. So it controls data as it's in motion in a super fast cloud native environment. So if people try to upload data to a website or to a cloud application that is going to break compliance, then you just block it, right? You block it in real time. This is Kubernetes-based, environment, super fast in the cloud, right? Not only does it do that, we also have full-blown CASB capability that will support any cloud application at all. So if you looked at a CASB last year, but it was just too expensive or it just didn't fit in with the other technology, we have a fully integrated CASB system. So we can take, for example, the data, the definition that you consider to be sensitive to you, and we can monitor the way that people are behaving with that data in the cloud. So some of the common use cases would be, people are oversharing data, or people are behaving in a cloud application that would suggest that a risky behavior is happening. For example, turning off firewalls. If an AWS administrator suddenly turns off too many firewalls, that sort of thing. We've analyzed many of the main cloud applications that are out there against confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We've analyzed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, in some cases thousands of user actions, so that you can simply say, if somebody does something in my AWS environment that is going to put us at risk based on availability or confidentiality or integrity, let me know about it or start to block it. Also inside our, so Cloud Security Gateway, inline anti-AMD, which is sandboxing as well. So Secure Web Gateway, full-blown CASB, inline DLP, and inline AMD, with the option of our Zero Trust web browsing option, which is remote browser isolation, deeply integrated. So what that will do for you is it will enable you to access websites that would previously have been impossible to access because they're too risky. Or it can control the data that's going into those websites. We also have private access, and private access is our Zero Trust network access combined with firewall as a service. So it enables you to get access to those applications with a streamlined user experience and better security. But the addition of firewall as a service means that you can layer over security onto your SD-WAN environment for branch offices if you so wish to. But it also enables you to protect those users from intrusions. So that is our first platform. It will evolve over 2021, but I just wanted to let you know that is what you can buy right now from Bytes to address many of the use cases around SASE. So private access, as I have explained, allows you access to applications by remote workers in a consistent manner that's very user-friendly to them. So once the user themselves has been authenticated, it's a drop-down box on a web browser to get access to, you know, SAP HANA or whatever it is they happen to be doing on premise in the cloud. So just to sort of reiterate around our offering, dynamic edge protection is the category. There are two products within that category, and these are accessible via, or versions of them are accessible via our Advantage licensing program for customers who are 1,000 users and above. Or you can buy them separately, of course. So Cloud Security Gateway, it's available right now. You can have a discussion with Bytes and have a discussion with us about it. Web Security as a Service, 160 points of presence around the world. Threat protection, giving you that anti-malware defense, and remote browser isolation is an option. There's an additional option. Data protection as a service, which integrates with your DLP system. So if you've got Forcepoint DLP system, so if you've got Forcepoint DLP on premise, this enables you to extend that control out into the cloud, both for data at rest and for data in motion. And then full-blown CASB. Private access is the file as a service and the zero trust network access. So that gives you your users access to private applications at the point of needing them. And then over all of this, as you might have noticed as we launched our dynamic user protection capability, which looks at indicators of behavior. So there are over 100 indicators that Dave is starting to behave in a bad way, right? So if Dave starts to upload lots of files to a personal Dropbox, or starts to encrypt files, or starts to record video conferences, and then starts to you know, sends messages in Gmail or LinkedIn or whatever that would indicate that he's looking for a job. All of these tiny little indicators of behavior are continuously monitored, of course, in an anonymous way, to add to a higher risk profile. So the point is, you want to try and get to the point before the data is stolen. I know this sounds a little bit like Minority Report, right? But it works. It works really, really well. And our strategy with risk adaptive protection is to influence the decision whether you're going to allow people to access cloud applications or data within cloud applications according to their risk. So let's just talk about zero trust, right? And a continuous model around zero trust. So first of all, we need to understand who these people are, you know, and that would be defined by Okta, Ping, Microsoft, OneLogin, whatever it happens to be that you've, SailPoint, whatever it happens to be that you've defined as an identity. You need to give people access to cloud applications and on-premise applications. And this is where private access and Cloud Security Gateway come in, right? Who is allowed? No messing around the network, right? You know, but you know, when at the time they need access to those applications, give them access, and that's private access and Cloud Security Gateway. Wherever they are in the world, you know, whatever they happen to be doing, give them access. But then look at the data, right? Cloud Security Gateway contains inline DLP. But what we also do is we integrate, of course, with Forcepoint's on-premise DLP, so that we can say, look, let's look at the 360, right? Let's look at let's look at data at rest on the devices, data as it's stored locally, if you do backup to networks, and data as it's going into the cloud. And once it's into the cloud, how's it being shared and how's it being dealt with? And all of that is very, very simple. You define it once in Forcepoint DLP. So what we want people to do is to be able to use more data. So in a situation, for example, where Dave's son or daughter says, why don't you use, you know, we transfer that large file? Well, just extend Forcepoint DLP to cover that unsanctioned application. If Dave decides he wants to upload a file to Facebook because, you know, that's what he wants to do, well, scan the traffic and stop it if it's sensitive. Because, you know, who knows what Dave's going to do? Sneaky guy, that Dave. Anyway, but then also continuously monitor the users, but in a way that doesn't impinge on their civil liberties, but look at indicators of behavior and then validate their identity if we consider, or block them from, sharing that file if we consider that they've gone over a certain risk level. We want to get left of breach. Most organizations are way right of breach, right? We had a data breach. We've let the ICO know, and we think a lot of data's gone, right? And that was like a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. The reason, it's not because you don't care, it's because the technology you're using, the on-premise technology you're using, it just doesn't, just doesn't pass the muster these days. We need to look at the behavior of the users to get left of breach. We need to detect the breach before it becomes a major issue. So comprehensive SASE plus zero trust, right? Integrated with our force-point DLP. Of course, Cloud Security Gateway, as I mentioned, does come with inline DLP as well, but we need to be able to have one version of the truth. We want to have the breadth. We want to cover as many cloud applications, devices, and data as we possibly can. We want to have visibility, single points of policy to have visibility. And we need to have humans influence that, the behavior of us as humans, right? Not because we want to be sneaky or whatever, because we really, really want people to get stuff done better. Yeah, we really want to help get security out of the way so that people can get stuff done. Thank you. So I much appreciate bites. It's now, I think it's probably around about 2:30, something like that. If you do have any questions, please do put them in the chat. I would love to hear them, and we'd love to reply to them as well. In addition to which, what we'd really like is if you could go to our stand and pass any feedback that you have. Really appreciate it. So let's have a look at the questions. Thank you very much. Bye for now.